Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backyard Pet Talk with Shannon Riley. Today, I am so excited. We have a very special guest, Terry Ryan. Terry Ryan has been a huge part of positive dog training and has actually worked with some very phenomenal people in her career. I'm just so honored to have you here, Terry. She's the president of Legacy Canine and Behavior and Training. It's a school that specializes in positive reinforcement training and positive reinforcement based. But she also does these amazing things called Chicken Camp that we are going to be talking about today, too. Hopefully, if you don't know Terry, you're going to learn a lot about her and you'll want to follow her because she's also author of quite a few books that we'll probably be talking about, too. So, welcome, Terry. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me today.
My honor, Shannon, really.
I'm so happy. So some people may not know, that maybe they're new to dog training, or maybe it's someone who's not a trainer and they may not know much about you. And can you tell us, I know that your career has been long and a lot of exciting adventures, but tell us kind of how you got started into dog training. And we'll talk about chicken camp after, but how did you get started
All
in
right.
that dog training?
I got started because of a puppy, big, strong German Shepherd puppy that I got as a young person, out of control. And I started training him at home. And I was successful. He could do lots of different tricks. I was so proud of myself. But then we left home and I found out that he's on alert to respond to many different things. And I wasn't capable of meeting that challenge. So the girl across the street said, "Hey, I'm going to take my poodle Ruffy to this obedience class. Why don't you and Honcho, that was my German Shepherd, come and take the class with me?" And I said, "Well, I don't need the class, but I'll keep you company." I found out that I really, really desperately needed that class. He wanted to chase every dog in front of him. He wanted to turn around and chase the dogs behind him, and he was a handful. So I kept on going to training classes. That's what got me into dog training.
Mm-hmm.
One,
Now, how long ago was that approximately?
that was mid 60s. That was 1966,
So were
before
they
you were
mostly,
born.
yes, before I was born. Did they use mostly choke chains back then too? Was that primarily what you were using?
Yes, yes, entirely choke chains,
Hmm.
or what we used to call the German choke, the pinch collar. And
Hmm.
because my dog was so rambunctious and I was inept at keeping him calm, instructor, who was a senior man, commands respect,
Hmm.
said, "This is a collar. I want you to put it on the dog before you come in next week, or don't come in." It was a pinch collar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, well, he's the leader here. I'm the follower. I'm going to do this.
Hmm.
And I immediately thought, I don't like this. I don't like his reaction to this. And so if the option is this or don't come, I guess I won't go. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I had the similar when I was 16. The first dog I trained, they required a choke chain, and she was a lab, rambunctious. They said she needs a pinch. So I borrowed somebody's in that class once. She yelped, and I said, I can't
yeah,
do that. And then I still kept going to the class. But when I was at home, I started practicing. I had no idea what I was doing, but I started practicing with cheese. I was taking cheese with me, and I would like, I just kind of, I guessed, I have no idea how I even came up with that then. And so then she became the best in the class. And they thought it was because I was so masterful at this choke chain, but it was because I had the choke chain on when we walked. But she also really liked cheese and she was a lab. So it wasn't hard.
that
Uh,
is so funny. Similar happened to me.
uh-huh.
I signed up for a different class and was very successful, only because good luck, I think. And the dog was responding a lot better. Back in those days, they had graduation, and graduation was the AKC obedience trial companion dog tests.
Hmm.
And so I happened to pass that and got first place. I don't know how I did it. I was first place, one dog, lucky day. And they came up to me after I got my blue ribbon and said, "We'd like you to be an instructor for our school." So I'm all flattered. But looking back, my only criterion for being eligible to be an instructor was one lucky night with one dog and a blue ribbon. We know better now, but not
Yes.
back then. Yeah.
No, I mean that's how I think most instructors back then, they were just the instructor I had all these dogs titled in obedience, and she wanted me to do obedience with this lab, but I was in high school, I was running track volleyball. I'm like, I don't have time to do these dog trial things. But even in agility, and I teach agility now, a lot of instructors, their qualification is that they do agility with their own dog or have competed. But,
Yeah.
I think we still have that some, but it's definitely changing, which is a good thing because
Yeah.
we know every dog's different. So not everything works the same.
We're getting better at what we do.
Yes, for sure. You started, so you got hired as a dog trainer right away. How did you start Legacy Canine? How did you decide to start your legacy business?
Bill had a university job and we had two children. So I wasn't working at that particular time. And I kind of devoted my spare time to dog things. I was an obedience trial judge. I don't like the word obedience. It's not in my vocabulary for the last 30 or 40 years.
Hmm.
Training, just training is good enough, not obedience training. Anyway, it turned out that I was teaching people through parks and recreation, through various community entities, and I decided I wanted to do my own thing. And we decided to go very legal through the Small Business Administration and jump through all those hoops. And I needed a name. And so we put the name on it and I started training on my own. I borrowed like church basements and firehouses with the fire trucks pulled out and underground parking facilities. And it evolved until eventually we bought a farm and built our own training center from scratch. Everything I didn't have at those venues earlier, I put into that building. So it was kind of a really neat place. We're downsized now, we're getting old. And so we're downsized and I'm doing stuff that doesn't require a large campus and lots of staff. Chicken training and our Karen Pryor clicker stuff is what's keeping me busy enough.
That's great. And I was just going to say, so you transitioned at some point from dog training to training chickens, which, there might be some listeners have never heard of chicken camp or wonder what is chicken camp. I personally love chicken camp. I had wanted to go for years. I finally got to go. It's so great as a trainer, so many things. But how did you get started in chicken camp?
I remember you at chicken camp. You were on the front row, right in front of me, asking questions, taking notes. It was
Yeah.
fun getting to know you there. Well, back in the 80s, I was doing dog camps. I would rent the fairgrounds because I needed a big place because I would run it for 120 people and only 60 dogs were allowed. So we had a lot of people coming that didn't have dogs. At that time I was traveling a lot. I had a lot of overseas people that I'd been to their country doing courses, etc. So these people wanted to come to America and partake of what we were doing in person over here. So I did have probably 50 or 60% of those people were way out of town or on the other side of the world. And I thought, this is not easy for them. They're here, they want to learn, they can't bring their own dog. So I went through a series of, okay, we'll do for you folks, we'll have shelter dogs. And then at that time, the psychologist, somebody made a comment, I even forget who, about the difference between psychologists and dog trainers. And this person said, yeah, I'd like to give a dog trainer a Skinner box and see what she or he can do. And I thought, I'd like to give you an 80-year-old woman with a 7-month-old lab puppy and see what you can do. I never said that, of course, I was thinking.
It's
So
true.
and it's so different now. That was a one-off years and years ago. Right
Mhm.
now, I think we have such a good cooperative teamwork through the various disciplines, and we
Mhm.
need everybody. If I don't have a PhD DVM, at least I have lots of friends that are, so we can
Yes.
work together.
And
I
so
decided,
how did the chickens get involved in
well,
all of
I
this
did. Yeah,
craziness?
right. I did rats at first. I
Okay.
borrowed rats from Lab of Animal Resources and I had my own rat colony for a while. I decided I wanted something different from rats because some people just don't like rats for
Mhm.
some reason. Figure that out. So at that point, I'd already been in conjunction with Karen Pryor doing stuff. She was in Hawaii. She moved to Washington State where I was. Her associate that took over for her, Ingrid Chang Schellenberger, took over for her, but then she moved to Washington. Ingrid came to camp. She called me up and said, I'm so cold in Washington and I don't have any friends. I said, well, what are you doing in 2 weekends? Nothing. Come to camp. So she was a camper and saw us working with the rats. And she said, I asked her, did you have fun? Oh, yeah, yeah. She's Swedish.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I said, good, because next time you're going to teach it. Oh, no, no. I twisted her arm. I'm too busy making sure lunch is delivered and teaching my own units of the rotations. So she came and we talked about it. And I said, but I don't want to do rats. And she trained a lot of birds in Hawaii, blue-footed boobies and things like that. And I said, what are we going to do? What are we going to train, Ingrid? Because you're in charge now. She said, well, we could do chickens because I just got some chickens from my backyard. I said, okay, we're doing chickens. So that's what got us into chickens. And we would teach 2 people, 1 chicken. I made little operant conditioning chambers out of plastic boxes, and we had a good time. And camp was flourishing. And then Ingrid moved away, and I had chickens dumped on me again. So I thought, we can do more than this. We're doing a pretty good job with chickens. We're learning a lot, but we could do more. Then I remembered the back of my psych book, the Brelands, Marion and Keller Breland. And I didn't know them. Keller was long gone. They were graduate students of B.F. Skinner. Dr. Skinner is, I say, he's the guy that brought operant conditioning as well as a little bit of classical conditioning to the dog training world. I said, hello, I'm Terry. You don't know me, but I am doing courses with dog people by using chickens. And she said, oh, what a good idea. Good for you. How wonderful. If you ever met her, she's the sweetest thing. And I said, but I'm not doing a good enough job. I know that you and your husband, Keller, used chickens to train people in your business, Animal Behavior Enterprises. Can I hire you to come and train the chicken rotation in my camp? Oh, no, dear, no, I'm retired. Keep up the good work, dear, keep up the good work. So I twisted her arm and she ended up coming and teaching it for me. And she brought her second husband, Bob Bailey, with her. And they taught that rotation for many years at my training and behavior camps. So that's how I got into chickens. They were chicken people and they were running that unit. And that's how we got there.
That's amazing.
She passed away. Bob went on to do chicken camps. No, he doesn't call them camps. They're not camps for him. They were courses. And he did chicken only courses, which were wonderful. I sent all my people to it. I went to it. I learned a lot from those people. But my goal for chicken training wasn't the same as theirs. Their goal was to train chicken. My goal was a better dog trainer. I was more into the process, what the chickens can teach us, than what ended up as the final result of the chicken. So that's kind of the direction I've been taking ever since.
And your chicken camp has been all over everywhere. And I remember even, gosh, it was probably 15 years ago, you even had it little workshops at APDT conferences and things so people could get a taste of it. It's really blossomed. And did you travel around the world and do chicken camp?
Many different places. I can joke and say I did chicken camps from A to Z and from Australia to Zimbabwe. So yes, I have been lucky enough to have been invited to different places. People say, how'd you get into this? And I said, I didn't. Somebody wrote and said, can you make chicken camp possible? And I said, yeah, it's hard. It's a lot of work. You have to do the chickens. By do the chickens, I say make them table ready, help them be table ready, and people laugh at that. But we train chickens on a table, one-on-one. And but people were willing to do that. And I've done probably 10 or 12 different countries. And it's fun for me because it's a stretch. For me, especially when English is not their best language. Right now, an interesting thing is happening. There's a university in South Korea that's going to host chicken training in their animal science unit. And I will be teaching that virtually. So that's fun. And a type of thing that timing is important. I've got to teach timing through an interpreter.
Oh,
So
wow.
fortunately, I have a good interpreter, but it's still a challenge. And that's what keeps me young, I guess, is all these different things I have to figure out.
Yeah, always figuring out different things. Because you've done probably thousands and thousands of trainers have gone through, chicken camp by this point. What would you say is the hardest thing for someone who's doing chicken camp to first grasp? Like, what do you see the students struggle with the most?
I believe we can all polish up decide on the criteria and which criterion are you going to reinforce. We do a lot of generalizing. Quote Marion Breland Bailey, she says, be a splitter, not a lumper. And in dog training and chicken training, we see a combination of behaviors that we want to mark and reinforce, but we should be consistently picking out one criterion identify it when you see it, and be able to reinforce it as timely as possible. That's why we do a little bit of work on mechanical skills before the chickens even come out onto the table to be trained.
And by mechanical skills, in case anyone's not sure, that's using the clicker and being able to get click and then provide the reinforcer, which is oftentimes chicken scratch, for the chickens, but in the dogs, it would be a treat or something like that.
Thank you
And
for that. Yes.
it is a lot to hold in your hand if you're a new learner too, as a student.
And you have to keep the chicken engaged. Dogs are so easy. That's why we're able to abuse them with training. Dogs figure out what you want in spite of you, not because of you. And then they'll happily do it. Chickens, not so much. Chickens, you have to really make it their idea in their best interest. And I think that's what makes us better dog trainers. We don't take advantage of our dogs in the name of training.
I agree. And when, my experience too is, if you make a mistake with a dog and you click at the wrong time or you mark the wrong behavior that you didn't intend, they're pretty forgiving and you can fix that pretty quick. Sometimes the chicken, like if they were supposed to peck the blue and you accidentally clicked when they peck the red, if that stuck in their brain, that red gets very strong and it's hard to turn them around if you, as a human, if you make the mistake of marking it incorrectly, where a dog might give you a lot more forgiveness, for lack of a better word.
Yes, and I can't tell you why that is. It's just a species specific thing, I guess. I guess at a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I see what the animal's doing and then I guess. I guess you could call me a professional guesser.
Isn't that what we all have to be with dogs? Like, it's always my thing where somebody says, well, I know my dog is thinking they like this better. And in my head, it depends who it is. If it's a client that I can tell is trying to just have empathy for their dog, I might not say it. But sometimes I want to say, how do you know that's what they're thinking? How do you know they're not thinking about the ball they played with 5 minutes ago? We don't know. We are professional guessers as trainers.
We're getting better at singling out that specific thing, lots better.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I think chicken camp really fine tunes. Anybody can benefit from chicken camp that's a trainer for sure, fine tuning your skills. But even in my class, we had people who had never trained anything before and they were just learning the psychology of positive reinforcement. And do you get a lot of students that are outside the dog training world in chicken camp, or was that just in this individual situation?
Absolutely. It started, let's bring the dog trainers together and train a chicken. I've had zoo people. I've had the pharmaceutical industry send their people to chicken camps so they could figure out how to enrich the chimpanzees and animals that they have in the environment of their work. I've had, of course, a variety of different people, llama people. I've had school people, school teachers. And the most interesting one was a family reunion chicken camp.
Oh my goodness.
This woman had been to camp and she said, boy, does my mother-in-law need this? And I said, oh, does she? And she said, later she approached me about doing a family reunion with like 3 or 4 hours of chicken training every day while they enjoyed our mountains and ocean around here. And it was fun for me, but who would have thought?
Trying to train her mother-in-law. How funny.
We had a Trident Industries, which is in the fishing industry. We did chicken training in combination with Tag Teach, Teresa McEwen and I. We had a contract to work with them. The fishing industry around here could be pretty tough. I don't know if you've ever seen The Deadliest Catch, where the men go out on a big old boat and have to get along. Yeah. Well, it's the big old boat and it's the Bering Sea. They're after fish and not crabs. And a lot of these folks are ESL, English as a second language, and they're not communicating maybe as well as they should for no fault of their own. And some of these guys would rather push you over than say, please move over on a production line. And so that was interesting working with the fishermen.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things you can learn, from the chickens and chicken camp. It's a great experience. So
chickens don't speak English. So those people that were not as great at English found out you can communicate anyway.
It is very true. Chicken camp will be something that hopefully will go on for a very long time. But you also have written quite a few books in your time. And so you've written more recently the coaching people to train their dogs. So that is one of them. And then you have some of the toolbox toolbox for remodeling your problem dog, and the toolbox for having a great family dog, and then gamifying your dog training. And Stat just reminded me you also have a course on the Karen Pryor Academy of having games with your dogs and training with games. What made you decide to start writing books?
I needed to write some booklets when I worked at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Washington State University. I had to do that as part of my job. I was the program coordinator for the dean there, who had a human animal bond outreach program. So that's what got me started writing. I was working on grant money, and by the time I was finished, there were work study people that could actually do my job. So I said, I'm getting these invitations to go elsewhere, so let's let the work study people keep this going forward. I wrote a book called The Puppy Primer. It's out of print now, and it won an award at Dog Writers. And at that point, there's a banquet for all the people that go to New York at the Dog Writers Convention. And I ended up not knowing a soul. I'm a little old kid from the country of Washington State, so I found myself sitting next to people, of course, that I didn't know. And the person next to me said, "Why haven't we published anything of yours?" And I said, "I don't know." And she was a Simon and Schuster person, and she said, "Let's do that." I said, "Okay, let's." So she had the How division, which is the pet section, and that's where I wrote my first book for them. And then it just seemed like there needed to be another book and another book. The idea of toolbox for remodeling your problem dog, that was one book I wrote at her invitation. And I really regretted that, because very soon I didn't like to use the word problem dog, because it's problem environments. And of course, people are a big part of the environment, aren't they? That was getting out of print. And I said, I've got to rewrite this. So I was able to rewrite it, but instead it was called The Toolbox for Building a Great Family Dog. So why wait till there's problems and then fix them, which that book was about? Why not get the dog and give him the opportunities that he or she needs to be a good dog? So that's how it turned out.
That's great. That's why I joke with my puppy class that I will be teaching puppy class even if I can't teach anything else, because exactly for that reason. Let's get them started on the right foot and educate the guardians to know how to handle different things and help them early so that, they don't have those quote unquote problems down the line. No, I think that that's great.
A lot of my stuff is instructor oriented. I don't know, I just kind of fell into that. People asked questions, they wanted workshops. How do you do this? How do you be a good class assistant? How do you make them stop telling stories and get down to work, and that kind of thing. The most recent thing I've written is the Gamify book. That's a series of games that I like to do in my own classes. I like to disguise things as games. And so that book came out originally years and years and years ago as a booklet with a list of games in it. Then I thought, just a list of games isn't enough. How to pitch the game, how to teach the game when the game might not go well. And so that's why I rewrote that with more games, and each game has an instructor's tip and how to teach this. It's not a competitive thing. It's not first place, second place, third place. There's no stress emphasis on the competition, although people end up competing. Anyway, that's where I came into this. Do this chill out exercise, people, because folks would get spun up and the dogs would get spun up. And then, of course, there are people that don't want to play games. Your left brain people that said, I signed up for this because I heard it has a scientific basis, and now we play games. I said, we're not playing games. We're doing fluency exercises. Oh, okay. It's the same exact thing with a different name, but somehow I get away with that. Fluency exercise. And that's exactly what we want to do. Take those basics on the road. One of the people that I have on a pedestal is Ken Ramirez. And I like to use his quote that advanced training is just the basics done well. And with the fluency exercises or the games, we're able to help the client, help the dog generalize this good behavior to different situations.
Because that's exactly what they need. I mean, they go into a class and they learn sit or down or come, but what's important is using it in real life. It's kind of even like when we go to school and we learn something like algebra. Well, teach me how I'm going to use that in real life. I might keep it in my brain better, but if it's just during the textbook, if it doesn't flow into real life, it's harder to retain that long term.
And how many times in your classes, Shannon, have you heard, but he's perfect at home?
Oh,
I
every
always say,
day.
I always say, give me $1, please, because I wish I had $1 for every time I heard that. And good for you. He's perfect at home. That's a foundation step in the right direction. Terrific. Now let's do a little different environment and make him perfect in other, not perfect, but excellent in other places. To quote Karen Pryor, the person helped a great deal to bring this reinforcement-based training to the dog world. She said, "We're not looking for perfection, we're looking for excellence." So that's kind of good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Karen Pryor was an amazing part of this journey too that we're on for positive training for sure. Well, you have probably so much insight, Terry. We could talk for, hours and hours about all of these things. But, with your experience and your knowledge and all the things you've experienced, do you have any other tips or anything you would like to share with anyone who's listening from your abundance of knowledge?
Well, don't put up stone walls between you and the other person. Cognitive dissonance, you get behavior in a method that you've used over the years and it works, and you want to get stuck there because it works. I don't need to go on to anything newfangled because what I've been doing works. But what you have to ask yourself, could it work better? And could you change something to make it a happier situation for the dog and the person? You need to define it works. Maybe you're getting the behavior, but is the dog as happy as you want him to be? Much less your client, your human client. So I say, don't set any limitations. Be as flexible as you can. Yeah, that's probably a really important mindset to take into the dog training world when
Well,
you're
in
training.
life, for
Well,
sure. Yeah. Well, that's where, you're coaching people too. I think that's important because you and I both came from a world of pinch collars and choke chains. And if we had just stayed stuck and not learned more, we could, still be there. But I can't even tell you how much, I learn. And which is why I go to lots of continuing education all the time to learn from other professionals, as you did when you were coming up along Bailey's and with Karen Pryor, collaborating and learning from each other is, I just think, is such a great thing. It allows you flexibility to try different things, but when you know the outcome is happiness and, you're not trying to hurt them, but you want to help them, I think that's an important information for people to know. Well, thank you, Terry, so much for staying with me today. Everyone who's listening, check out Terry's books. We will have them all listed in with the information here on this podcast. Check them out. Keep checking out Chicken Camp as Terry is passing the torch to some people too. There's going to be updated information about that, but Terry's still around. She's still teaching Karen Pryor classes. So if you are interested in learning from Terry, check out her website at Legacy. It's been an honor for me to have you on today, Terry, and thank you so much. And I hope this sparks even more interest in Chicken Camp because chickens really, people don't think about it, but they can really teach you a lot just having this path. And hopefully dog training just keeps evolving more and more all the time. Thank you very much for being on today.
my pleasure, Shannon.
Thank you.